Hey Brock, haven't talked to you in a while, but I think I'm going to deal with this recent video of yours when you're speaking back to Tool Time. Now, I want to deal first with your concept of peer review. Brock, do you know what peer review is? Have you ever actually read a peer review journal? Or just even a peer reviewed paper? Peer review is a way for scientists, as a group, to weed out bad science, and bad science only refers generally to how the science was done, the procedures of the experiments and the nature of the experiments, versus good science, in which the experiments were done well and actually have good data to support them, and that those experiments can be reproduced. Okay, that's what peer review is for. Now, it's also important that the people who do peer review are people that know the subject. Brock, you would be a terrible peer reviewer in regards to any biological science or astronomy or physics or anything like that, because you simply do not know. I wouldn't be a good peer reviewer, mainly because even though I do have quite a bit of knowledge, I'm not at that level yet. So let me ask you this, Brock, in regards to peer review, who would you have peer review scientific articles? Would you have people like you that really don't know anything about the science peer reviewing these articles? I mean, they wouldn't even understand the first paragraph. Or do you want people actually working in the sciences that actually understand these sciences and understand the terminology used and understand the processes used and the science actually being discussed doing peer review? Now, your problem with peer review is another contradictory thing in regards to your lifestyle. Everything you have around you, Brock, is the product of peer-reviewed research. Your computer, your car, your flooring, your ceiling, the walls, the guitar you have in your back wall sometimes, all of that is a product of peer-reviewed research. So don't be hypocritical towards this, Brock. Realize that peer review is a very important thing. In regards to evolution, there have been many people that have come out with things that actually seem to go against the original theory of evolution. Matter of fact, modern day synthetic theory of evolution has come from this. I mean, today's theory of evolution is not Darwin's theory of evolution. I hope you understand that. Darwin was the founder of that theory, but that theory has itself changed over time, and it was the peer review process that allowed these new ideas into how life interacts and evolves to become known and to become proven. So that brings me to the next topic, the concept of neo-Darwinism. Neo-Darwinism was coined back in, I think it was 1880 somewhere. And it was the idea that natural selection was the exclusive mechanism behind evolutionary change. Of course, this isn't true. We know that now. Back then, it was just a hypothesis based on this theory, on what was just then a fledgling theory. Of course, things have come around since then. We discovered genetics. We discovered, for bacteria, we discovered there's what's called lateral gene flow. We discovered concepts like allopatric speciation and sympatric speciation. We've discovered things like founder effect and genetic drift. All of these things play into the theory of evolution nowadays. So there's a lot more there than you are aware of, Brock. And you speak as though you know enough about this to actually comment on the theory of evolution, or that you know enough about things like physics to comment on thermodynamics. Basically, Brock, it's not about, let me check my notes here real quick, it's not about how the language is controlled. It's about understanding the definition of the terms. Brock, you don't know them. It's not about gaping holes in the theory, because there aren't really any gaping holes in the theory of evolution, Brock. Sorry, there isn't. And you can try to point to them. I actually challenge you to point to gaps in the theory of evolution and I would like you to actually, put a video together about this. Stay away from the old ones like transitional fossils, because those are easily disproven. Any argument against transitional fossils, all we have to do is point to the equine series, the cetacean series, the mammalian series, point to I hate it when I do that with the words, complicated words, foraminifera, or any other organism that we do have strong transitional sequences in. So, Brock, I challenge you to find a gap that you think is a gap and put it out there. Put it out there as a simple question. Just find what you think this gap is and ask, is there a solution to it? It's like with intelligent design creationists. We have the easy thing to deal with, right? They claim that there are irreducibly complex components to cells. Well, they put that out there in regards to the bacterial flagellum, and they were shown up in court that there are evolutionary predecessors to the flagellum, type 3 excretory pathways and so on. So, Brock, when there's this question about whether or not ID is good, and they have a claim, we can, on the science side, show that the claim is bogus. But you haven't done that in regards to evolution. Now, everything else you speak of in this video is pretty much your same old spiel, concept of chance, as if you actually understood what that meant. And by the way, chance is not contradictory to organization, it's complementary to organization. And I might show that in a video in the future. Actually, I probably will. That no new things have ever occurred. Have you ever heard of the Italian wall lizard? It's a species that has undergone speciation, so there's actually 2 species now. And one of them has developed morphological differences in its head, morphological differences in its hind limbs, and developed a completely new, what's called cecal valve, that its predecessors did not have. So yes, things do develop new in organisms. Most of the time it's chemical pathways, like the development of nylonase in bacteria to digest nylon. That's an easy thing. Morphological changes, well, we see them too. They're a little bit smaller, not as common, but they do occur. And you claim that they don't. So, take my challenge, Brock. Provide a gap in the theory of evolution that you think exists. And I can promise you that me, and probably a half dozen others or more on YouTube here, will fill that gap for you. Because so far, gaps don't exist. There are some questions left, but gaps don't exist. Have a good day.